Choice Removed, Part 3. Raymond's laugh shot out, and he threw back his head. There was a jaggedness to it, and tears ran down his face. I reckon the only difference between us is that I know I was in a kennel. He shook his head. I wanted a choice. I'm no one's dog, he barked, but his face burned. Shut up, Raymond. Elijah reached out a hand to shove him forward. His foot came down on a wet patch of wet moss, and the sheriff fell forward. The gun flew from his grip and clattered against a rock. As he tried to stand, he sucked air back into his lungs. Raymond already stood over him. Elijah's face was mere inches from the brand, which bled and oozed a black liquid. There was an algae-green tint to it. The sheriff's stomach revolted at the rotted grape stench of the man. He closed his mouth, but he could taste the manic sweat and rot. Metal snapped with a sharp crack. Raymond held his hands out as if to seize him by the neck. The ghastly smile was like yellow wooden pegs covered in a sheen of spit. The man's lake-blue eye was filled with lightning that writhed in an emerald sandstorm. Savage desire drove any rationale from his gaze. He clapped his hands together and squeezed, but Raymond's eyes desired something else to strangle. The handcuffs had broken with ease. The strange mark bled, and he closed his eyes. A rapid succession of snaps was like gunfire as his left hand twisted out of shape. Raymond fell to his knees before the sheriff, his hands together in a broken prayer. The corded muscles of his body flexed. "Will I be as Judas?" Raymond prayed, but no merciful God listened. Elijah glanced at him and then went for the pistol. Raymond only sat in his fruitless prayer. The sheriff pointed the gun at him and then lowered it. "I'll get you help," Elijah promised, glancing at the gun, wondering if it could hurt the killer. The dim sunlight above was muted by the clouds, but it grew darker as dusk. Like the sun had been covered by sackcloth, the day was like night. An occasional fat drop slapped the leaves above to fall like cool stones. The mark upon Raymond bled freely, and the smell of rotting grapes was a putrid miasma. It dripped over the skin. Elijah listened to him mutter the poem like a prayer of some dark land of Meridian. It was a plea to the only thing that would listen to such as Raymond. What happened that night? Elijah stood over him. Raymond's wide eyes still held the writhing sparks, but they had dimmed. No one listened, Eli. He watched the bones of his left hand set themselves. They popped back together with sickening crunches. No one cares. The entire town had decided that his family was trash, and anything done to trash was their nature to endure. Even Rutger had looked at him like a dog, though one that had been mistreated. "What did they do to you, huh?" His eyes fell to the cross burned into Raymond's skin, and the scars that spread like angel wings across his back. The fine hairs on his body stood. Elijah had asked him what had happened when the marks were still bloody all those years ago. He had gone to other adults, but they told him that the Villalobos family was pure poison, just filth. I prayed. He looked at his hands. I prayed for respite and salvation. Raymond wrapped his arms around his chest. "Rutger, he was going to get you, Ray." He recalled his uncle had gone to find him after he hadn't come to the football game. The former sheriff had gone to check on Raymond a lot over the years. I prayed for vengeance then. He looked up and a fat drop struck his upturned face. It ran down like a tear. The killer looked at the storm above. "Curse your silence," he cast the words at the sky. "What do you pray for when all hope of escape is dashed?" Raymond had pleaded for release from this world, the cage constructed for him by indifferent happenstance.